move to the next slide. So, um, first of all, we at Buildup, when we interact with such context like what's going on in Sudan right now, we start by understanding what we call digital hubs. And there's three steps that we always do. The first thing that we need to understand the digital hub within the context, which is to examine different types and what is the impact of these types of digital hub. We are going to talk about this just in a minute. And then we need to analyze digital harms and how we can track and understand these in evidence-based way, and then how we can address these digital harm. What are the approaches that we are going to use to address these digital harms? So in the next slide, we are going to see that the definition of digital harms in conflict is the production and distribution of information in a digital space that creates or increases division between people or group. And as our fellow panelists just mentioned, that is what's really happening right now in Sudan. But if you want to look into digital harm, there is different types and there is different forms of digital harms in conflict. So in the next one, sorry. Yeah, so we just draw this to make things easier for you. So we think there is five types of digital harms in conflict. The first one is the offensive cyber operations, which is the data extraction to harass or intimidate. The next one, as also Marwa, I think, covered that very well, is the network control, where the parties of the conflict are using the network itself and their control over it to cause digital harms for the civilians in that places. And the third thing is the information deception and the manipulative influence. And I think there is a link between these two, and we are going to look into an example, a real example from Sudan to explain this. And the fifth one is the algorithmic amplifications, which is that the algorithm and the tech companies are pushing the harmful content and the harmful digital content to the audience, and that caused much harm for those um, who are affected by those conflicts. So what? So if we define the digital harms in Sudan or anywhere else, what are we doing? How we can build up, analyze, and understand this? We are using something that called Phoenix, and Phoenix it's an open source platform. It's an commercial one. It was designed to enable peace builders and mediators to conduct ethical and collective uh, social media listening in order to inform conflict transformation work. This platform is being developed and it's owned by BuildUp and our partners in Data Value People. And this platform that we are using, it's an open source, so any Sudanese organization or any other organization that wants to use this platform to analyze the social media, they can just come and join us, and they can just work and use Phoenix. So how we can what can you Phoenix be used to? In fact, there is different things that can be done by Phoenix. We can understand the online bullying or harassment, or we can understand the online hate speech. We can also map the violence and incitement. We can understand the misinformation and disinformation mapping. We can understand the behavior assessments. We can look into the attitudes and system the attitudes in social media, and we can understand the actors and the types of the actors and influencers, and we can look into the popular narratives, and we can understand also the gender-based online attacks, and many more. Um, all of that can be done and can be accomplished by using Phoenix. So Phoenix got three steps. The first one is that we used Phoenix to gather the data. We gather the data using list of accounts. We gather data using a list of keywords. We use Phoenix also to gather also comments from certain posts on social media, and we can use Phoenix to gather all of these data from Facebook, from X, from TikTok, and we can use it to also upload data that we have from different platforms, and we can gather it, and we can put it into Phoenix. And then the added value that Phoenix got is that we can classify this data. So we can classify this data based on the topic. We can classify those accounts based on who are the actors. We can classify these keywords into different subcategories. We can look into the hate speech as a general thing, and we can look at the hate speech as something that is used for calling to violence. It's a gender-based hate. It's an ethnic hate. It's and so on, different types of hate speech and so on. We can use that, and then Phoenix by itself, it's gonna visualize this data so you can see what is really going on social media and what is really happening um, online. And by the way, we are gathering all of this data from the public posts. We don't go into private accounts. We don't go into private groups. We just collect this data from the public post that's being published for the public audience. So can we look into a real example that we used Phoenix to analyze and understand what really happened in Sudan? So we have this report that we issued in July 2025, and its name is Sudan's Digital Battleground. And this report is that we try to understand what happened online and what is the links between what happened online and what happened offline. So we explore the connection between three different incidents. The first one is the massacre for the Nura, and then what happened in El Kanabi, and then what happened beyond that in South Sudan. So we look into the data between February 2024 to February 2025, and we look at more than 4 million posts to different platforms. And as you can see in the screen, you can see the timeline. And you can see those spikes are the incidents that we looked at. So what really happened is that when we looked into the social media fabric in Sudan, we understand that the two warring parties are using the social media to amplify their own narratives. So the RSF is trying to claim that they are to portray itself like a democratic force is fighting for democracy, and they are fighting against the former regime followers. They are against what they called the state of 56 or دولة 56, and they are rejecting the post-independence state model. And because of يعني, what happened with the يعني, meta community rules, and what happened in X also, and the reports that been initiated against the RSF accounts. Most of these platforms have blocked most of the accounts that's been publishing the RSF narratives. Right now, their main territory online, it's TikTok, and I think they have some business in Telegram. On the other side, SAF called this war the war of dignity, and they accused the RSF of being يعني being formed of foreign members, and they tried to link the RSF to the FFC at that time, or to the civilians right now. And we saw that 50, and we found that 58% of the content on Facebook um, is from accounts affiliated with SAF. And in fact, SAF have a lot of supporters on Facebook. And unfortunately, also when we looked at the social media battlefield in Sudan, we found out that civilians forces are absent from social media platform, as we saw. So what we have seen, when going back to the incidents that I mentioned few minutes earlier, that on the June 5th, 2024, the RSF attacked with the North Village, and they committed a very atrocious massacre against the civilians. They killed at least 100 um, uh, from the village, from that village, and 35 from them were kids, according to Radio Dabanga, by the way, and several sources. And in fact, they tried to say that we didn't attack the civilians. In fact, they attacked us. There was some militias in this village, and they were following and they are part of the Islamist regime, and they attacked our forces, and we just defend ourselves. And they, in fact, what we have seen so far, um, say that this narrative were falsely spread, as we can see in the post that's in front of us. And then the SAF took a Jazeera state in late of December, I think 2024, and on the 13th of January 2025, the SAF supporters and the Sudan Shield forces, uh, they committed similar crimes against the Al-Kanabi citizens, and they trying to frame those who have been killed in those places by saying those were cooperators with the RSF itself, and they try to amplify these narratives by using social media. So if we want and look at that, we can see that there is a lot of account that's affiliated with the both warring parties that have been using these narratives to justify the atrocities that being committed, whether by the RSF or by SAF itself. So after that, what happens quite obvious. There is some South Sudanese whom have been killed in Al Kanabi at that time, and then the South Sudanese um, were so angry, and they asked for vengeance. And there's some riots in Juba, and unfortunately 16 Sudanese have been killed because of that. So we examine these things, we examine it online, and we found that there's several tactics that being used by SAF and the RSF. And those tactics, I'm not going to talk into detail of that, but I'm gonna just list it for you. You can always go to our website and read the full report. But there was 7 tactics that we looked into, and we elaborate, and we try to understand what really happened in social media. So the first thing was the collective blame. Um, the second tactic was the identity based attacks, and the third one was framing other as an extensional threat, and the fourth was undermining the incidents, and the fifth one was the voter tourism, and the sixth one was shifting blame to the victims, and the seventh one is displacing responsibility. And these screenshots in this slide, or the next slide, are samples of these tactics that being used by the warring parties. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mahmoud to